All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. As you can see, today is Halloween. I have my makeup on that I was passing out candies with. Um, I just wanted to get these videos out of the way, so figured might as well just leave it on and have some fun with this. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about today's lesson. So we're going to examine whether a president's cabinet position should be given out or should it be earned. We're going to talk about a president who basically just like, I'll give it to this person, things like that. And then we're going to create an argument on whether the Cherokee Rose story is true or not, because we are going to be talking about the Trail of Tears today. Okay. So here is your warm up picture. All right. Now, the question I'm asking you here is based off what you see, off your analysis of this picture, look at the body language of these people. How would you classify it? Does it look like they're happy, excited, sad? Um, how would you describe it? So particularly the people up front, I know it's kind of hard to see the people in the back, but even then, you can see a common theme in a sense between a lot of the people. Okay, so how would you justify it? How would you justify? How would you classify it and explain why you say that. So pick out some people saying, like, hey, this person in this coat, or this person on this horse or donkey or walking or whatever, you know. So again, don't forget the why. Justify it. Okay. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. Now, if you remember from a couple classes ago, the United States bought the Louisiana Territory from France. Now, this caused a huge rift in the slavery issue. Okay, because now it's like, well, is this land going to be free or is it going to be slave? Which one's going to be? Now, in 1820, Maine was still a part of, well, it's a territory of the United States, but they wanted to be part of the United States. They wanted to be a state. But the thing is, they were like, we're not going to be a slave state. You know, no, we hate slavery. We want to be a free state. So they were admitted as a free state, but this upset the southern states because they were like, oh, these guys, now there's more free states than slave states, and then they're going to create laws that going to get rid of slavery, and we don't like that. Yeah, this is stupid. And so they started causing problems in Congress. You know, these southern states are I mean basically being little babies and just well, we're going to cause problems, we're going to do this, we're going to do that to make your life horrible, and they basically did. So now Congress is like, okay, well, how do we solve this issue between free and slave states? So they basically agreed to compromise because the next state that wanted to be part of the United States was Missouri. And it's like, okay, we'll let Missouri decide if they want to be free or slave. Well, Missouri, everybody and their mama knew back then. Missouri is right next to the slave states, so more than likely it's going to be a slave state. And that's exactly what happened in 1821. It was admitted into the Union, but as a slave state. Now, this guy you see in the picture right here, that is Senator Jess Thomas. And he basically suggested that there should be a balance in the Louisiana Territory area. And he basically pointed out this line called the 3630 parallel line and said that, everything south of this line should be slave states forever. And some Southerners liked it. They're like, yeah, that's good. That's a great plan. But then there were some people who said, well, no, because there's a lot of territory in the north. What is the north makes more states and then they get more power and things like that. So there was a lot of rift back and forth. And basically Congress is trying to please everyone by leveling the playing field between slave and free states. They're trying to keep it even. Okay. But as some of you guys know, you can't please everyone. And this is one of those things where you can't please everyone. Now, the voting population basically grew exponentially between 1824 and 1828. All right. So in 1824, there was 355,000 people who registered to vote. In 4 years after that, it ballooned, basically quadrupled to 1.13 million people. All right. This was one of the biggest jumps up until like 2008 when Obama was running for president. A lot of young kids, 18 to 24-year-olds, register to vote. And typically, young people do not vote. So when he became president, so many young people registered to vote. And that number just grew of total registered voters in our country, just like that. Now, the president who won was Andrew Jackson, and he was not like Washington at all, or the other presidents before. So, like, President Washington basically looked and said, okay, I need a Secretary of Treasury, somebody who knows money, how the money system works, and things like that. So he hired like Alexander Hamilton, who was a guru, smart, intelligent man when it comes to money. Jackson basically said, who gave me the most money during my campaign? Oh, Ted. So I'm going to hire Ted. Well, Ted could be a big dummy when it comes to how the government handles the money situation. If we're going to pay off our debts and things like that, should the interest rate go high or low, he may not know. He just could be just a rich guy. But that's the thing. So he gave jobs and appointments to his friends and supporters. And a lot of these people, they were not qualified for the job. The Secretary of War was probably just some dude who was out campaigning for him, knocking on doors and things like that, getting people to register to vote. And this guy might not have known anything about war, military tactics, or anything like that. So why would you appoint him? Because he helped me win. That's the spoil system. And a lot of these people really hurt our country more than they helped it. Okay. Now, Jackson has a lot of these die-hard followers. They were called Jacksonians. These people were the Democratic Republicans, if you remember from a couple lessons ago. Remember I told you so as time went on, people start calling them Republicans? Well, now they're like, you know what? No, no, no. We need to officially change our name. So they changed their name officially from Democratic Republicans to simply Democrats. The people who were against Jackson, the anti-Jacksonians, they decided, we're going to change our political party name too, from the Federalist to the Whig Party. Okay, guys. So I know, like I told you guys, if you were paying attention a couple weeks ago, actually like last week, a lot of these politics people, they change their names quite a bit, but their beliefs, what they believe in, is typically the same. Okay. All right. Now, Georgia, the state of Georgia, took millions of acres away from the Cherokee Nation, the Cherokee Indians. These guys were guaranteed this land under federal law. The federal government said, basically told the Cherokee Nation, this is your land, this is your guys's, you're here to stay. But Georgia decided to take this land. Why? Because gold was discovered on the Cherokee land. So the Cherokees fought back, but they fought back legally and fought for their territorial rights. So there was two Supreme Court cases that they were fighting in with. First one was the Cherokee Nation versus Georgia, and the Worcester versus Georgia court cases. And basically, the Supreme Court said, you know what? you're right, Cherokee Nation. The federal government told you this is your land. We have an agreement with you. This is your land. Georgia has no right to take this land away from you. Now, President Jackson was told, this is what the Supreme Court says. What's your response? And he said, the Chief Justice Marshall has made his opinion. Let's see him enforce it. Meaning, hey, this guy, yeah, he could say, oh, give back the land, this and that. What was he going to do to make me? What's he going to do? He ain't going to do nothing. He could just, ooh, give back the land, give back the land. But he ain't going to make me. So this just showed some people like, hey, man, the president, he's become too powerful. He's become too like a king type of thing. So this is where the Indian Removal Act comes in. Now, Jackson tries to tell people, no, 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 we're not kicking them out of their land. See, here's the thing. They're in danger. Yeah, so we're trying to save them. We're trying to put them in another place where they're safe, where they can roam around, things like that. We're taking them to the Oklahoma Territory. Yeah, yeah. See, so actually, we're doing a good thing for them. We care about them. In reality, no, he doesn't. They could care two things about them. They don't care. He just wants them out of that land. Okay. Now, here's the legend. This is a legend I was brought up with as a kid. Same thing is taught to me in middle school and then in high school. The legend is the military gave the Native Americans blankets that had smallpox in it. Smallpox is a very infectious disease, and that was a legend I was brought up with. And the facts are no, the blankets did not have smallpox in it. Now, why did people believe this back then? And even even when I was growing up, because the thing is, while the Trail of Tears was happening, there was a smallpox pandemic going through the Cherokee Nation. But the Cherokee Nation had experienced smallpox epidemics all the way since the 1750s. This is already the 1830s. I mean, so they've gone through smallpox pandemics, before. But it's just so happened at this time there was a smallpox pandemic going through the nation. So people kind of assumed like, oh, the government, kicking them out, and also they're trying to kill them too. Okay. Now, Jackson's done with his terms as president. Then comes a new president, Martin Van Buren. So some people were like, oh man, Van Buren's now president. Maybe he'll back off on this Jacksonian pressure to kick in the Native Americans out, things like that. But basically, Van Buren was Jackson 2.0. He was his little buddy. So he's like, no, no, you guys are leaving, and we're sending troops to take you guys. So 2,000 Cherokee soldiers, braves, fought to protect their people, and 2,000 of them died. Okay. Another 2,000 Native Americans died on the Trail of Tears. Now, as you see from this picture, there are 4 different routes that they took. The blue one is the actual river route that they took. Okay. As you see, the yellow one was basically just like a straight shot, the quickest way to get there. The white one, from my understanding, was like the one where if you were one of those renegades, one of those people who cause problems, well, we're going to make you take the long way through over mountains and canyons and things like that, uh, basically keep them out longer, make the trip so much more longer so that these guys kind of, in a sense, kind of suffer through that. Okay. And again, 2,000 of those people died along the trail from starvation, disease, and exposure to the elements. Now, here's one of my favorite stories I've ever heard, and I even read it, on a little journal thing. It was pretty interesting. But this is how it goes. The Cherokees wrote stories like this. When the natives were forced to leave their land, a lot of the people who were making the trip were old, sick, or children. Okay. And a lot of them, just were so, again, either old or young that they needed help along the way. And the people who could, like, set up the tents, do the cooking, the helping, and watching over the people were the women. So the women took a lot of responsibility. Okay, again, the men are all fighting, trying to, stop this whole thing from happening, but again, they have a run with the soldiers. Now, along the way, a lot of older people die. A lot of older people die along the way, and children, we're talking from newborns to like 6, 8 years old, die from disease, starvation, exposure, again, smallpox. So what happens is this: the women get together, they start like cleaning their stuff, their clothing, and all of a sudden they just start crying because there's only so much people can take before they break, and these women have endured so much, and they start crying, and when because they're all huddled together, an elder sees them crying and realizes these women are on the point of breaking. So he asks the gods, give us a sign, give these women a sign to show them that there's hope, a sign that things will get better. The next morning, the area where the women were crying, this flower was right there, was growing. Now, here's the thing: this flower grows in the wild. It can grow in the wild, but basically the only part where they really flourish is where the trail was. So, if you looked at that map from the last slide, that area is where this flower can grow out in the wild and still survive. If you try to grow it, in your backyard, you know, like in the ground, like actually in the ground, not in the pot, but in the ground, it will die. But if you have it in a pot in your home, things like that, yeah, it'll survive. But out in the wild, it will die. Okay. Now, here's the thing: the flower has a representation. There's 5 white petals. The number 5 represents the 5 Cherokee tribes in the nation. The white represents the innocence of the people who died, the older people, the children. Okay. The gold center represents the reason why these Cherokee people were kicked off their land, the gold that was discovered. Okay. And the thorns on it represents the fierceness of the fighters and the people, that they don't take things lying down, that they will fight, that they are strong people. So I love that story. It's amazing, it's beautiful, but it's also sad. Okay. Now here's my question to you. What's your thoughts on it, on that story? Do you believe it's true? A little bit, half of it, all of it, none of it? What you think? Do you think there is any merit to that story? Okay. So, with that being said, you guys, we're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Okay. You guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.